seeing, as I'm sure all of you are, many different articles that are coming up online about what to do during this crisis and what to do with shared custody, what to do about your support orders, and what to do for yourself if you're feeling isolated, if you're feeling overwhelmed by virtue of the fact that you're on your own with kids, without kids, with elderly relatives in your home. So last week we did a great webinar with Lori Itkin about some of the financial stuff, and we can still talk about that today if you guys would like. But this week we invited my friend Danielle Delaney because she is a mental health professional, and I thought it would be really good to be able to have people ask her questions about all kinds of mental health and wellness during what is a very uncertain and unsettling time. So welcome, Danielle. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Judy. I appreciate you guys, and I'm here to help. We are in a time of such uncertainty, and I think a large part of this crisis is the uncertainty that everybody's feeling. We've already got this virus floating around, but we've also got this uncertain feeling in the pit of our stomachs. So wellness and staying calm and mindfulness is all really important. So I'm here to help everyone through whatever you need to ask me about so that I can help settle some of those emotions.
Danielle, starting out with, I have a question, just because I think, at least for me, the first couple weeks were not horrible. It was a novelty. I was getting to spend more time with my kids. I was cooking more. I was cleaning more. Going into week 3, it's not as much fun. And I think people are getting a little stir crazy. I am noticing now, as I said, some of the clients of the firm and the users at OverEasy, now I think is when it's starting to be crunch time, and God only knows how much longer this is going on. As a mental health professional, what can you tell people about just dealing with the uncertainty? What are you doing, and what are you counseling clients to do when they are having real issues of anxiety surrounding this?
Well, it's a good question because anxiety is at an all-time high for just about all of us. A lot of it is that level of uncertainty that I was speaking of. That's at crisis pitch right now. So the first couple of weeks, I think it just didn't seem as uncertain. You know, we were kind of locked down or stay-at-home orders just for days at a time, and we didn't know what's going on. Now it seems like it's endless. So when anything, anxiety brews and grows. So there is going to be an end to this, and it's a lot of just staying in the moment is what I'm advising people to do, because believe me, the calls have been off the charts. I'm hearing from clients from years ago. I'm hearing from people that are friends that now want a session. I'm hearing from parents that are going stir crazy with their children. I'm hearing from women that are alone and feel very lonely and wish that they had a partner. And then there's people that have a partner but are having such a tough time because they're now confined in a situation that they weren't happy in the first place. So I think a lot of it is remembering to breathe, remembering that this is not forever, it's for the moment. And the things that you were doing those other weeks, continue that. You know, the cooking, the spending time with friends and family. You don't have to only Zoom for things like this. We can Zoom with friends and family, and to try to keep the structure of your normal life as much as possible with exercise, waking up at the same time, taking a shower. You know, a lot of us aren't doing that every day anymore, and it's not helping anything. So talking it out, speaking to people about what you're going through, and also the mindfulness that I'm talking about of remembering you're in this moment right now and that you're safe right now, because we will catastrophize if we start thinking about what's going to happen in May or what's canceled for June. We need to just think about today, just like they say, one day at a time, but it's honestly moment at a time, because the news changes so rapidly. And it helps to not be watching the news 24/7 as well. Like, I know we all want to be informed, but it's a little much, and it will start to do a number on you if you have it on at all times. So watching something else, whether it's Netflix or comedy or just anything instead of the news, is also helpful.
Do any of you, I know this last week we had people writing in the chat area, questions or comments. If you want to just raise your hand or wave, and Judy can unmute you and ask whatever's easiest for you all.
And we can start, we have some questions that were sent in to us. So one of them is, if you live with your spouse during a divorce and they are not taking precautions with the virus, how can you protect yourself and your child?
So again, that's probably more of a medical issue,
Yeah.
but what I would dial back to is how do you communicate with your estranged spouse about your feelings that they are really not considering the, you know, health and hygiene recommendations that we've been getting. That would be the first thing. Sometimes they're doing it on purpose just to piss you off. If that's the case, I go with the never let them see you sweat. Go in the other room, wash your hands. Don't let him or her see that they are bothering you. But if this is really just a matter of changing behavior, you could say, I got to tell you something. When you walked in from the grocery store and you didn't take the gloves off and then you started unloading things and touching things and coughing all over everything, it made me feel really uncomfortable. And I'm wondering if you could, if I helped you and it wouldn't be a trigger, could we maybe prevent that from happening? Because I'm really, really not cool with you doing it the way you did it. And I appreciate that you went to the market and all that. The other thing to know is, and again, kids are not immune to this. I don't want anyone to think we're saying that, but they are less likely to have issues if they get it, unless they have asthma or already existing lung issues. Obviously, we don't want anybody in our households getting sick. And obviously, we certainly don't want to have sick kids because they also can be carriers to other people. But that being said, as parents, one of the things that freaks us out the most when something like this happens is, are my kids going to be okay? And that has been a bit of a saving grace with regard to COVID-19 in that we are not seeing scores of children being affected. Again, they can get it. If they already have health issues, it's horrible. Nobody should be laissez-faire about their hygiene and health during this time. But that being said, you don't have to worry as much about the kids, is what we're hearing. Danielle, do you have other stuff to say about the best way of dealing with somebody that's doing that?
I think what you said is so accurate. It comes down to communication, and it depends on the person who sent in that question. I don't know exactly what the surrounding circumstances are, if they're already adversarial, if they already butt heads over a lot of things, or if this is a new circumstance that it's just upsetting. In which case, if it's already an adversarial situation, you just don't want to escalate it. Like you said, never let them see you sweat. If he's already just trying to piss you off, then let it go a little, help, wipe it down, do what you can, and take him aside so there's not fighting in front of the children. And you have to tell your partner, this is upsetting to me. I need help with this, and the reasons why are going to be more important than the emotion. Just that, I've been watching things that are saying we need to wipe everything down. The germs live on that for 24 hours. Just the facts and being calm. If you stay calm, they'll meet you there. If you escalate it and it gets, ratcheted up to a difficult level, then that's not helpful for anybody. So I think you're right. Communication, being calm about it, and just letting them know why it's upsetting for you.
A lot of these things also, I feel like if at some point when we come out of this, you want to be able to use them against your co-parent, it's very important to be keeping track of what's going on. For example, if somebody's not allowing the kids to come back over to your house, or if you're taking them to his or her house and you don't feel like it's safe, keeping a record of what's going on and why you are feeling unheard or uncooperated with is important. And I also have found that when you start keeping that record, not only could it be helpful for you in the future if you're in some kind of mediation or in a court setting, it can also be really cathartic. You might find yourself having written some really funny feelings and emotions as you're writing some of this down. So it could serve a dual purpose. You might have to clean it up a little if you're writing the funny parts in front of a judge at some point, but that is very cathartic to be able to get your thoughts down on paper, journaling, reminding yourself what went on during this time period.
Excellent. Very helpful.
Laura, I like how you say journaling. I've been reading a lot about setting up like new routines, and journaling seemed to pop to like the top of a list as something that is very beneficial. So you're saying that it's beneficial not just for mindfulness and for your own self, but also for future use should it be needed, like
Yes.
in court and so forth. So I think that's very important for people, that this journaling is an opportunity.
Yeah,
Totally.
And here we're getting some questions now.
And also Rochelle raised her hand. I don't know if you can unmute her. Rochelle Shriley. Hi.
I'm looking for you, Rochelle.
right down at the bottom.
Me okay now?
Yep,
Yes.
You're on, Rochelle.
Okay, so I have a question kind of related to what you guys were just talking about. Like, for example, right now I'm in the midst of a divorce, and I have the girls 85% of the time, but they go over to their father's every other weekend, which I'm fine with. That's fine. This weekend they're supposed to go, which is great. I'd love to be relieved, and all that. But at the same time, he called me yesterday and he said, Doug, one of his coworkers got COVID. And I said, okay. So, and that's a serious thing. It's like, okay, he works directly with Doug. He comes to the job site, every week or so. And I said, that was last Thursday. So now I'm conflicted. We don't have the best communication. I try, but it's hard. So I'm conflicted on what I should do. I know he wants the kids this weekend, and he doesn't have symptoms, but I'm like, well, he was in contact with someone directly that has COVID now.
Yeah.
So
and that was last Thursday.
Really,
that was a week ago.
He came in contact last Thursday. So
Right.
what, today's Wednesday. So
Almost a week.
So what if you said, I so appreciate you being honest with me about this. I'm so concerned about it. Is there any way you'd be willing to switch weekends and give us one more week just to make sure that you're near? They say about 14 days is when you're in the clear. And again, even if it was 13 days, if it was, next weekend, ask him if he'll switch with you. Say, I'll totally double up. We can do some big FaceTime. Maybe you can watch a movie with them. I'm just so nervous about them getting it, not just because of their health, but just perpetuating this passing on. What do you think he would say about maybe just switching weekends and giving it a little bit more?
That's something that I did think of. I was like, maybe if I postpone it just one weekend, because we never do that. We keep it strictly to the schedule, but this is a whole different thing, and I don't want to get it as well because I'm the only one taking care of them. So it's like,
I would put it in writing, put it in an email, definitely start out with, thank you so much for being honest. Cause I realize I have to do that.
Oh, I was surprised.
Yeah. And say, I know we really usually adhere to our schedule, but how would you feel about maybe switching it up because of these special circumstances? I also would make time over the weekend to put them in front of the computer and have time to talk to you and all that. But just to make sure we're all safe, because again, for the good of everybody in our community, we don't want to perpetuate this. We don't want them sick, and I don't want them coming back here, particularly if you do get it and then I get it and we're both sick and I'm trying to take care of them. How do you feel? And then leave it to him. Hopefully he'll be cool about it. If he's not, you have to make a choice whether you send him over there or you don't. We are supposed to be adhering to court orders, except if really somebody's in danger. So you'll have to make a call at that point. But having that written document showing that you were the reasonable parent, that your request was reasonable, that he wouldn't really be losing any time, the time would be shifted, I think would really be beneficial. And sometimes when people see it in writing, they have a chance to kind of read it, digest, think about it before they write back. And you'll probably get his reply in writing too, which again, could be used if you want.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I'll do then. I'll go ahead and do that. And I am keeping a journal of even just that conversation that, that we had. I wrote that down already and stuff. So that's what I'll do, and just play it safe. And then hopefully he's accommodating. I'm hoping that he is. So we'll see. Thank you.
And I hope he doesn't get it. I mean, that would suck.
Well, I know, because right now he's the only one. I can't work. Like my job stuff dried up because I'm in PR and different things and with events and nonprofits. So right now he's the only one working. So it's like,
right in there too. Say, we all depend on you so much. We want you to be okay. If you do get it, let me know. Let me know what I can do. How can I help? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Kill it with kindness, Rochelle.
Yeah, that's hard to do, but okay. All right. Thank you very much for answering my question.
Sure. Johnny wants me to mention that on the It's Over Easy blog, we do have a full article, tips for co-parenting amicably during COVID-19. Definitely check it out at itsovereasy.com. Also, for those of you who are feeling isolated, you're sick of watching Netflix, you maybe want to do a little bit of self-help, we have the Next Chapter series that's available, and Dr. Delaney and I both are part of it. This is for during and after divorces. It has all kinds of experts on there who are able to talk to you about great stuff that's going on and that can help you with what Danielle talked about was all kinds of mental health stuff, but we also have people that are talking about organization of closets and your email inbox, and individuals who can help with meditation, dating, physical fitness, and all kinds of fun things. So that's called Next Chapter series online if you go to it.
Great.
Judy, do you have more questions? Because I can't see the other in my chat box.
Yeah, anyone, if you have any other questions, please add them into the chat box. We did receive a couple others. Separating in same house, loads and loads of stress, 2 young kids, and my husband yells and bad mouths me, sometimes in front of the kids. Just get up and move to another room, or leave the kids in the room with him. What do I say to the kids? How do I just let it all happen and manage this stress?
Ooh, that's a Danielle one.
Well, it's also a Laura one because you have children, but you don't have that circumstance going on. And the only thing I can really recommend in a situation like that is, again, if it's escalating, like she said, the woman who wrote the letter there said, should I just leave the room, that her husband's doing that and the children are present? Pretty much, yes. I think that's actually a good thing to do, because you don't want to be adding to it, and the kids are picking up that energy and that adversarial energy, and you don't need that. So walking out of the room and then addressing it with him later, I think, is a good idea for that individual, and also addressing it with the children later, so that they don't feel that you just abandoned and, you know, bolted out of the situation, but letting them know, you know, that your feelings are hurt. It doesn't have to include them in an argument, but just letting them know, I walked out because I don't want us to be arguing. You know, just being clear with them. Their kids are so intelligent and they pick up on so much anyway. But I think separately to let him know, you know, without using you, accusatory language, it sounds like he's someone who's very, you know, he's causing problems and he wants to call her names or call derogatory, you know, saying things that are difficult in front of the kids. I think as long as she doesn't meet him where he is, as long as you make sure that you're saying, this is upsetting for the children. We're all confined here. Let's do the best we can to get along in this moment. Lots of stress, you know, just trying to be calm, because honestly, the minute that you meet someone in that same chaotic place where they are, it's just going to implode. So what you can control of it, try, but it does sound like a very difficult situation. I would just suggest not escalating it when it begins. You're right, walk out of the room. Not much more you can do with a situation like that other than leave it so that it doesn't get worse in front of the children.
I agree. And I would call him on it too later in some kind of an email or a note saying, I just want you to know, when you said this in front of our kids today, that not only hurt me, but it's not good for the kids to see us arguing like that. I will not engage with you when our children are there. And this is a difficult situation for everybody. So can't we just get along while we're in here? If you have stuff to say, if you want to get in a text argument with me,
right,
have at it, but let's not do it in front of them. They don't deserve that.
And I think that's so important too. And I don't have children myself, but I remember working for a family where the woman had children. This is years and years ago. I was an assistant, a personal assistant to these people. And the husband was just a difficult person. And he would come in the room and start to shout at me. And I would just tell him, you can come back when you're not going to talk to me like that. And the wife was fascinated. She's like, how are you doing that? Because I just wouldn't engage in it. And I wasn't married to him, so I didn't have that heat behind it and that history. I just wasn't going to do it. So he knew I was pretty much going to walk out if he didn't do that. And he would walk right back out. And then he'd say, I'm ready to talk now. And I'd come upstairs to his office and say, all right, now what did you need? And it was such a good relationship. It lasted for years. And I'm actually friends with them now, because I wouldn't let it escalate. And I know it's a lot different when you're, you know, a partner of someone. Things have that heat behind them and that history. But like Laura was saying, if you walk out of the room, there's nothing to stop you from texting and saying, I will not engage in that. Let's talk privately. The children are there. These are your children. It's upsetting. Let's not make things worse than they already are. We all have our phone on us at all times. So while he's being difficult, it's probably in his back pocket. So if you walk out of the room, you can probably go ahead and speak to him that way, so it doesn't feel like it's dropped. And as you said, Laura, yeah, you're calling him on it and letting him know this is unacceptable behavior. We can talk about this later. So as long as it's not in front of the kids, unfortunately, you're under a lot of stress with this person cohabitating still. But it won't be that way forever, and remind yourself of that too. The stress will not be endless. It's just really not good right now.
Totally.
There is Natalie.
Yeah.
I unmuted. Do you have a question for the
Yeah.
ladies?
Hi. Okay. So I have kind of a complicated situation, and my kids are adults, and people don't really talk about what happens to adult children when their parents are getting divorced. But I have a long-term marriage of almost 38 years, and my husband's a public figure, and we're in the midst of getting divorced, and we had kind of a terrible reveal last May or June with our kids in a family. I don't know who thought this was a good idea at on a family. Well, it was supposed to be a family vacation, and that's kind of how we told them that we were in the mountains, and we told them we were getting divorced, and it was like an awful 2 weeks. Anyhow, my daughter has spent the last almost 2 years out of the country, and I just came back from spending 2 weeks with her. And getting her all set up to stay where she was, and things were changing so fast in that country that she decided to come back here. But she needed to be in 2 weeks of quarantine. So I'm still living with my husband in our house, and our 27-year-old son, who has high functioning autism, lives with us. So we rented her a small house in our neighborhood for 2 weeks to quarantine in. And she's through week 1, and she does not want to come back to be in our house. And my husband and I get along fine. We care about each other. We just cannot be married. And we've known this for years, but haven't really, just didn't come out until we weren't ready to deal with it until now. So I'm feeling really anxious about her coming home, because also it's like we let her run the family in a way, which isn't good. And we always, kind of defer to her. That's kind of our history. And I'm dreading, we're so close, but I'm dreading her coming into our house, because I know she doesn't want to be in the house, and the dynamic and the stress is going to be huge. And I don't know how long she's going to be in the country. I just need support from other people who have adults and are dealing with this too. I don't know if anyone's like that.
So you guys are still living in the same house, though?
We live in the same house. We can't afford to rent a place and move out. And a lot of what we have agreed on is dependent on our house selling, and we just had to take our house off the market. And so I feel like a little stagnant, and I want to get out. And there's a lot of issues to work out surrounding that.
So Danielle, can you speak first?
My husband's a public figure. That's it.
Right. It does kind of, one of the things I think that needs to be addressed is the fact that your daughter kind of is the person who sets the stage here. That sounds like something maybe that needs to be fixed by you and your husband together as a united front. As we tell people that have, minor children that are getting divorced, you have to approach both of your children, even if they're adults, and say, we made this decision. This is what we're doing. We are still a family, and we need you to respect that. And you don't get to call the shots. It's been 2 years. You've been away. We rented you a place to quarantine. You're coming back in the house. I know it's not going to be fun. None of us is having a good time here, but we need to all work together. We're all in this together right now. And we are still your parents, and we are paying the mortgage on this house until we can get it listed and sold. And is he in a position that he will be a united front with you?
Absolutely. And, the other thing is that both of my adult kids are talking to me about him, and they're having a lot of distress about him. And I'm like, you need to talk to each other and your friends, and I'm not going to say anything bad about your dad. And, it's just feels so complicated. And people think when your kids are adults, there are no issues. But let me tell you, that is just not true.
I tell people all the time, it doesn't end when they turned 18. And and in New York, child support ends at 21. It doesn't end. And my kids are not adults, but I've represented enough people with adult children. They're still your kids. And if they're living under your roof, for sure, you guys have the ability to be able to have that conversation with them. Danielle, do you have any good resources that you can recommend in terms of a family therapy? You guys could do a family therapy Zoom.
We have had the conversations that you're suggesting. It's just that my daughter has been out of the country, and now she's here for an undetermined amount of time, and we all have therapists. We're telling her who's in charge, and
I'm
all
with
of
the
that,
therapist.
but it's just I'm worried about her coming back into the house.
Now, is it absolutely necessary that she come back into the house? I mean, from what I'm hearing you say, you're not going to keep renting this house for her, right? Is
No,
that an
because
option
it's
at
like
all?
not in the price range. I am looking for other options. Like if somebody has a guest house, they wouldn't mind,
Yeah.
letting
Yeah. I
her
mean,
use.
there may be an
I'm looking for
Airbnb.
another option.
Right. There may be an Airbnb situation or something that you could do, because what I'm hearing the most strongly from you is that you're not wanting her to come back into the house, where there are these underlying issues where she's running things to a degree where you guys have allowed that to some point, and everybody's got their own therapists going on, where really it might really be helpful if you all had a family session with you, your husband or ex-husband to be, and this daughter. Now, how old is your daughter?
She's 26 and my son is 28.
28. Okay, so 26 and 28. And
Mhm.
it sounds more like your daughter is, because she's been out of the country and now she's back, that it's, she's sort of running things a little bit from what you've said. So I would think that if the three of you, I don't know if your son needs to be involved or not. It sounds like he has his own therapy, but you and your husband and your daughter, that level of stress and her coming back into the home, I think if you can avoid it, because you said you're already under stress and that this is going to be extremely stressful, maybe you're able to avoid it altogether. If you can find something in a different price range for her to stay. And she said she's uncomfortable coming back home, that she's not looking forward to that, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you can arrange something else for her. Like, that doesn't have to be the end all and the be all, that one house. There are other houses, so that could work out. Or if you are so stressed out that you don't want to be near him, is it possible for you to quarantine with her at another location so that the two of you would then be on your own and not with him? I mean, just these different possibilities of different combinations of your family members are possible. And then also, I think family therapy can be so helpful, because when everyone's having therapy, or if just a couple of you are having therapy together as couples counseling or mother-daughter, maybe all four of you coming together on Zoom or on the phone, sometimes that actually works, to talk about these issues that you're having with one another. And then we can kind of see who's having the problem with whom and put those two together in therapy. So there's so many things that you can do. Don't feel like this is it. Don't despair. There's therapy out there for all of you that can combine the problems and sort through them. And there's other combinations of this household arrangement that you can think about. I don't know if that's something you were thinking about before, but
I just talked to a friend today who knows somebody who has a guest house who might be willing to let my daughter go there.
Because we don't know how long this is going on.
Right.
And if that's really the main point of stress, is that you've already got stress and her coming home is going to add to it, maybe don't add that ingredient. Just maybe not right now.
Right.
So whatever you can do to avoid that might be, honestly, your saving grace that keeps things a little bit calmer, so it doesn't at least get worse and escalate.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps.
Thank you.
We have another question from Elaine Dunn, and you are unmuted if you want to share your question, Elaine.
Thank you. It's a good follow-up to what just occurred. I'm similar with her. I do have an adult son. He's 28. He is disabled, so I cannot go anywhere else to self-quarantine. I heard that as a suggestion, which was a good suggestion. But my question is very quick. My husband is an owner-operator. He goes out of the house. He's not taking the precautions that he needs to coming back into the house. I'm a little older than him, so I'm at the high risk factor. As you can see, I didn't color my hair yet. So I'm thinking, what type of accountability legally can we hold our spouses to that are not taking the precautions to protect their household? I am constantly running behind him, sanitizing everything when he comes in, spraying everything, wiping everything when he leaves. Is there any type of legal accountability? And we are in the middle of a divorce.
Right. I don't believe so right now. It's a great idea. I mean, I know that we have cases in family law that have to do with sexually transmitted diseases, things that people know that they're putting somebody at risk and they're doing it willfully. What can the punishment be? We have not seen.
Would that be reckless endangerment of some kind? I mean, obviously we don't want it to get to that point where it's a lawsuit or a court case. Right. It would be better if we could just get him to fall in line. But I'm wondering, would that be reckless endangerment?
Coughed on you twice. Yeah, I mean, it's scary and frustrating. I would maybe go online, Elaine, and search, again, if there's something that can be done by virtue of the sheriff's office that's in your county, if they came to the door and said, we've had this report. Now, I don't know if that makes things worse for the two of you when you're there. The other thing, and again, I know I sound like a broken record and I'm sorry, but putting it in writing and saying, I just want you to know, here's what you did in the past week. You're endangering me. You're endangering our son. I can't go anywhere else to self-quarantine because I need to care for him because he's a disabled adult. I'm keeping a record of this because I do believe that at some point there will be a day of reckoning. And if I end up getting sick as a result of your reckless behavior, I'm coming back to you. So let's keep a record, and maybe that will put him on notice that he needs to be a little bit more careful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It has been domestic violence throughout, so I am a little hesitant of calling for legal, anyone to come in unless it's going to be a restraining order and have them taken out.
And by the way, guys, our courts are all closed right now except for domestic violence things. And again, I'm not saying to go there. I want you safe, whether it's your lungs being safe or your face being safe. So let's try to do it in the most reasonable way. But if anybody is in a situation in the home where they are being, where there's a perpetrator of domestic violence against you and your kids, that is the one thing that most courts in most counties remain open for as emergency orders and that kind of stuff. Good times, right?
Yeah, thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
Of course. And Elaine, don't forget that it's, when it's domestic violence, and I'm so sorry you've been suffering through that it's always about power and control. It's not ever about what it looks like it's about. It's power and control. So that's what he's doing. He knows you're going to go behind him and clean up after him, and he knows he's aggravating you, and it's another form of abuse. So I'm so sorry you're enduring that right now. It's really tough.
Thank you.
Look at the National Domestic Violence Hotline as well. So you can call them and see what's going on, and laws are different in each state. I don't know what state you're in.
New Jersey.
Okay, New Jersey. So definitely look into that. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline if you can when he can't hear you. And do remember that restraining orders and things can sometimes exacerbate a situation, because then it's, you can't keep me away and it's just a piece of paper and that whole thing. So you don't want this to get worse, but I would definitely call them and ask what to do and see what the laws are in your state.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Everyone stay safe.
Thank you.
You too. You too.
Judy, do you want to read? I know that there's a couple that we have that are here. One of them was from Rachel about and I think this probably applies to a lot of us. What if this crisis means we can't afford to get divorced? I remember people being forced to delay for years after the crisis of 2008. Are there legal options that are affordable? Our kids are grown, so it's just us. And Bethany wrote back to her, check your local courts for self-help centers. Obviously, It's Over Easy Online Divorce does that same kind of self-help, but I don't think the question was not being able to afford an attorney. I think the question was more about not being able to afford to actually split up. Like Natalie, if your most valuable asset is your home, if the real estate market is kind of ground to a halt right now, if any assets that you have in terms of stocks, bonds, whatever else have now kind of dwindled, what do we do if our financial situation is such that we might actually have to stay together? It's a very good question. It's something I think Danielle can speak to in terms of how do you reframe the separation relationship if you're living in the same home, if you aren't able to divide assets, what are ways of kind of working through that as an interim stage to actually separating more formally and getting divorced? Danielle, do you have some good ideas for that?
Just some suggestions that work for any couple in an adversarial situation when there's two partners living in a house that don't want to be there. If both work, then it's or both work from home or both work elsewhere. Of course, right now it's generally from home, but I don't know if he's an essential worker or what. Now, this was Rachel who wrote in, correct? So Rachel's not here. Are you here, Rachel? No? Okay. So Rachel, I would suggest that whatever you can do to keep your distance while living together, I don't know how possible that is or what the living together situation is, but clearly you don't want to be there and it sounds like things are difficult. But the best you can do is try to have opposite schedules, much like if you were roommates or looking for a roommate, you'd want one that's a flight attendant that's gone a lot. You just want to try to sort things out and make sure that you've got things going on outside the home when that's a possibility. When we're talking about, you were talking about what happens after the fact, after this crisis. Just as much being apart as possible, because being together isn't working. So that would be one thing. And then of course, individual therapy. And as Laura has said, documenting everything, get it in writing, get it in writing, get it in writing, because then that way you can keep track of what happened. And although you might be delaying your divorce or doing it in a different manner, you want everything in writing that you can have. You may need to prove something. So it's a tough situation, but you do the best that you can with it while you're stuck in it.
There's a new question from Rochelle. Laura, this might be one for you to take around the courts. She's asking, if you're bringing up the courts, is it not possible at this time to go back to court regarding child support?
So you could go back to court regarding child support in terms of making it higher, making it lower, enforcing a request to have it paid. The problem is you wouldn't actually get in front of a judge until the courts reopen. That doesn't mean you can't file things. And anybody that wants to modify support, child or spousal, should absolutely do so now, because in most jurisdictions, if you file it, whatever the ultimate order will be, even if it's not until June or July, will be retroactive to the date when you file. Not all of them, but you should ask for that retroactivity as part of your paperwork. That'll do two things. One, when and if it eventually does get heard, let's say you're going to be lowering the amount that you pay to your ex, that lowered amount will go all the way back to April. So that'll be a good thing. And he may owe you some money, which again, I don't know if he'll have it, if he's getting support from you, but you'll see. Maybe that the court orders that, you know, he pays it back over time with reduced support amounts. The other thing is, it really does give you some leverage to try to resolve it with your ex out of court. If he or she knows that at some point there's going to be this judicial determination and it will be retroactive to this date, they don't just sit back and wait around for it. They realize that if there's going to be retroactivity, maybe it would behoove me to start engaging in some of these conversations now. And I think that's really important.
Excellent. Good answer.
For Anderson, and I think she wrote this in early, 7 months since we signed the judgment of dissolution. I have a non-compliant ex, a rogue judge who has denied every motion. Now that the courts are dark for how long? How does a single mom with 100% custody, just laid off work, secure monies owed to survive? I can't even quadro, which is a qualified domestic relations, my half of the property settlement. So again, there are things that I believe you can do for enforcement even without the help of a judge if you actually have a signed judgment of dissolution. Again, I don't know what state you live in, but I think you should go to whatever the county guidelines are. All of the websites are still up for the courthouses, and look up enforcement, because if you actually have a judgment, maybe you don't need the judge to make an enforcement order. If you've already got orders in place, you could probably figure out some way if there needs to be a lien. Quadro should be able to be done regardless of the fact that you don't have a court order. And I don't know if there's any ability to change the judicial officer that you've been assigned to post-judgment, but that would also be something that could be helpful given the fact that this judge doesn't seem to like you. But again, you've got a viable judgment of dissolution. I'm having a hard time seeing why it's so difficult to enforce it. I'm not saying it's your fault. I think it's so frustrating when you have a deal and for some reason you're not getting the benefits of that deal.
Hi, Laura. Thank you. This is Julie Anderson. I appreciate I'm online.
Yes.
It is a little bit of a sticky situation. I mean, I live in Hermosa Beach. I'm from California, but when I got divorced 6 months or a year ago, I was in Michigan living with my son. And yes, I do have a rogue judge that has violated my due process over and over again. Small town there,
Yes.
Brand new judge, 5 months on the bench, never been a lawyer, never been anything. And I don't think he understands family law. So I have a serious problem with doing anything in Michigan. I can't even get a sister state order because no, he won't sign it. I can't get the case moved here because he has a.
Can't you register the action here in California now that you've been here for 6 months? I don't know that the judge needs to sign off on that, Julie.
I have tried. I've tried to work with a quadro company, a lawyer out here. I mean, now that the courts are dark, You know, now I'm in a financial quandary. My ex will not comply with anything on the J. He doesn't pay child, spousal. He won't do a quadro. He's not going to sign anything. He's just a non-compliant ex who has a great job and works for LA City Fire Department. So
yeah,
it's a very difficult
It is.
situation for my son and I, who's a minor, just to get him to pay anything on time or do anything in the JOD. He just gets away with it.
I would definitely try to register your Michigan judgment in California. Again, I don't know that you need a judge in Michigan to sign off on that. I believe that's more of a procedural thing that the judges here will do. Judges are signing things right now. They're just not taking cases. So if you find out through the court website how to register an out-of-state judgment in California and do that in Hermosa Beach, then what should happen is, and it'll take longer than normal, but it should go through the normal course. Then you'll have a judgment here in California. Then you can go in for enforcement about that. And somebody, what's an IWO? Have her file an IWO.
I don't know what that is.
It's an IWO.
Yeah, I don't know. She's smarter than me. Hold on. She's going to tell me what IWO is. Shout out to Vicki Newberger, who actually keeps it all
In the meantime, this judge has held up all of my property, all my settlement, all my monies.
An income withholding order, Julie. Look that up on the county website.
Oh, no. LA City Fire will not do anything outside of California. That's why I can't quadro this. I can't do anything.
You need to file it here. You need to register that action in California. You have been here for more than 6 months now?
Yes, I have. Yeah,
right.
we moved back 6 months. We only lived there a year. Unfortunately, I filed in that small town of Birmingham.
See how to register here, file that here. Like I said, I don't think you need anything except for the judgment itself, and then you can start enforcement proceedings here once you get it registered.
I do think I investigated that, and there was some kind of something that prevented me. I've tried everything, and that's why I'm on here, to see if anyone has any other ideas. I think there is an issue with that, registering it here.
Oh, okay.
So I'm struggling to survive and take care of my son at this point. Non-compliant ex. So.
Also, I'm sure you already are doing this. Do keep a record of everything. At
everything.
Some point, I believe
everything.
Justice prevails, and at some point you'll get arrears on the not paid support. Anything that's gone down in value as a result of the delay, you can ask that he have to make the restitution for that. It's very frustrating, and I am so sorry.
I just got to get the case here.
Yeah.
And then I need help, and finding even a lawyer to do it is tough. So thank you.
Sure. Denise Rodriguez Brown, due to COVID-19, is it better to file later? Also, does the monthly house insurance amount need to be exact? So I don't know whether it's better to file later because I don't know what the situation is. There's so many things that go into it. Yes, like in 2008, a lot of people are waiting to see what's going to happen before they file. But some people might like to keep their foot in the door and say, well, my date of separation was when the stock market was still good, when he still had a job, when these things happened, as opposed to waiting for things to get worse. But again, it depends what the living situation is. It depends what's going on with your children if you have them. And I don't know what you mean about, does the monthly house insurance payment need to be exact?
Hi, I'm right here. Thanks. Hi. I was filling out the form online, and we pay insurance on a yearly basis. So I was wondering if I do the math and divide it by 12,
Yes.
Exactly,
So Denise is filling out what's called an income and expense declaration, and the house insurance will be one of her expenses that you fill those out when you get divorced. It doesn't need to be exact, and you can certainly take whatever the annual number is and divide it by 12 and throw it in there. And if it's not down to the dollar or the cent, the courts are usually okay with that, as long as it's close enough to the amount that you're paying either annually or monthly.
So to piggyback on the first question, thank you for that. I got it clear. So if I file now, I get the paperwork in about 48 hours. I get everything signed up, and then that's it, or the courts are closed for now.
The courts are closed, but you'll still have a conformed copy showing the day that you filed the paperwork. You'll still have to figure out a way to get your spouse served. And again, if you go to itsovereasy.com or another county website that shows what the filing rules are, you'll figure out how service of process works. And that will start the divorce proceeding happening. It's not just when you file, it's when you actually serve your spouse. And so in some states like California, there's a 6-month waiting period. That 6-month waiting period begins when the other party served. New Jersey, for example, much shorter, not even a month from the time you sign the final paper. So you have to really look at the state that you're in and then figure out what makes the most sense. But you can file for divorce while this is going on. It's just going to be a slower process, but it doesn't mean that you can't actually move forward with things. The courts really don't want people to feel like they are absolutely, stagnant during this time. It's just you can't get the kind of relief that you would want on the more immediate basis that you'd want it unless there is some kind of a domestic violence situation.
Mm-hmm. I got you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I wanted to mention, I can see over here that Nadia James is at work. So I don't know if you can still hear us, but I sent you a private email here, or a private message saying to contact me via email, and gave you my email address so that we can talk about your question here. I think I have some solutions for you. So just give me shoot me an email so I can answer you if we don't have time here today.
I think that's terrific. We have about 5 minutes left to our Hangout today. And I think we have one last question that Rachel is asking. Regarding service of process, is it possible to serve papers during the lockdown, or is that a violation of the lockdown rules?
I believe it's possible to serve. I think that the process servers are essential. You could run into problems. People may not open the door. They don't have to, given the fact that we are in quarantine. So it's maybe a little bit trickier than it's been in the past. Often, and again, this depends on what your relationship is with your spouse, often people will accept service. So if you are on the same page and you're not trying to surprise somebody with a process server jumping out of the bushes, you could say, I'm moving forward with this paperwork and I'm going to send it to you. If you sign this notice and acknowledgement of receipt, it's called in California, I don't have to have you personally served. So that's another way of looking at it. If it's really going to be somebody who's difficult, you may want to wait a little bit to see when, so that you're not spending a bunch of money on a process server hiding in front of somebody's house. I know some process servers are still working because I've had stuff served during this time period. But again, I don't know what it is in other states, and I also don't know how those people will be received if they show up at the doorstep. So you might want to be a little bit more careful about that. I also wanted to let you guys know I do a podcast with my friend Johnny Rains. It's called All's Fair, and it's on iHeart. And this Friday, we are dropping our COVID-19 episode, talking again more about some of this stuff, talking about some of the articles that we've read. So if you have more interest in things that have to do with what we're all going through during this crisis, do turn in All's Fair on iHeart, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts.
That's awesome. Really want to thank everyone for joining us. There was a question about providing the recording, the video of this meeting and the chat. Absolutely. So we have done that. And we have both this one and the one we did last week on finance that we'll share with everyone. And really want to thank our experts here with us, Dr. Delaney and Laura Wasser. You can also visit worthy.com. We have a great blog where Laura has contributed lots of great articles for you that also help you with any questions you have, as well as some programs and mindfulness and healthy living and a yoga program that we're loving and happy to share with everyone. Worthy also has a divorce support group online on Facebook, Worthy Women in Divorce. So you're welcome to join that as well, which is a great community of women. People have really enjoyed it as well. So we really thank you for joining us, and we hope it's been very helpful.
Bye, everybody. Hang in there. We're all
Hang in there.
Thank you, Worthy. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Dr. Delaney.
Take care. Bye.